It's early February. We're having a fall spring. And I always think I'm gonna do winter updates, and then I never do. So today we're gonna show you what's happening. We're gonna show me what's happening, so I remember where we are. Evening primrose, still abundant. Time has made it through. Got lots of chives popping up. Irises that I planted last year already had leaves up, and they actually had them up for a while, and I think they kind of stalled out because we had some super duper cold. See, the lavender's looking pretty good. Sage is looking a little scraggly, so I might need to cut those back. And then in the past, got a little yarrow in there. The sage has been able to take a really hard haircut. Strawberries, giant catmint, which will come back and be beautiful. Phlox, sedum, or a wall that is just continuing to disintegrate. That's partly why this garden is there, to be things that are sort of self-maintaining. Sedum, cactus. I don't think that calathea is coming back, but we'll see. I was able to mulch up some more things. I'm going to do something about all the pine cones here. It's going to be quite a lot. I'm just going to throw them under our mimosa tree. See, all of this mulch is what I've chipped up from the backyard with our leftover flame debris. The remains of 3 trees. This plum is getting quite big all of a sudden. American plum. These are hazelnuts, catkins, both of them. You can see that is evening primrose. But I've done chop and drop with a lot of things. Oh, got bachelor's buttons coming up. So hopefully we'll have a lot more pomegranate. Looks like the gardenias made it through. And that, I think, is dianthus, which is crazy. The zebra crossing. I have started seeds. Got these guys. Those are hollyhocks, all self-seeded. Nine bark. You can see the leaves poking through, and all the iris. I kind of like to leave the foliage as sort of a natural mulch. I will go through and clean some things up. That's a mullein, by the way. And this is a 9 bark. Yeah, we'll go through and clean that up at some point, just not yet. You can see all this was what I thought I would be doing, and I'll probably have to get some more cardboard, like who knows if that's even gonna work. Because I thought that's what I'd be doing this winter, is re-cardboarding and mulching this area, because the grass had gotten so bad. So hopefully come get some of that stuff. There's a pile of raspberry canes over there, and some I saw cut down. But yeah, because of the trees, that's not what I've done. Do have a new fence. Well, new gate in my fence and a new section of fence. That's all of my leaves thus far. Just leaving them in here. Gonna use them as leaf mold eventually. I ran out of garbage bags a while back, so that's left over. I did have 3 enormous piles of brush here. The ones that weren't useful laying dragged behind the fence over there. You can see my repaired panels. The other ones I have cut up, and that's a pile that I still have left to chip up with my little mini chipper shredder that I bought. Some vines over there that need to be disposed of, because I don't trust those guys to get chipped up and put in my compost, wisteria. This is the remains of one of the trees. You can see it's so covered in wisteria that, like, there's more wisteria than tree at the top in particular. So there were bigger pieces that my husband and one volunteer put up on basically the bottom there as a new, a little bit of a new wall, since it was, all this was essentially destroyed with the tree, and then other volunteers came and pulled them off and cut them up. So I think I'm going to use them to just put them behind the fence as groundhog defense. So, because they like to dig under and eat all my things. But yeah, so blueberries are budding out. It's my pink lemonade. And since we're having this fall spring, I'm sure it's going to be confusing to, that's a new praying mantis. What's the word? It's babies. Can't think of the right word. You know what I mean. Elderberry over there. It's a giant pile of pine. It's my last giant pile, and that's about 4 feet tall and 8 feet wide maybe. So we'll get to that. My little trees pretty much escaped unscathed. Pink lady apple and my volunteer peach tree. They both did have some damage, but the way the tree fell, it was very minimal. And so let's come around over here. Let's have a look. So all of this largely is, there's probably some that was there before, but all the wood in there is what I've fitted together from the debris. You can see I've got a couple of stakes in there to hold things together. Probably need more stakes. Things like this, that there are wisteria pods everywhere, and wisteria is, while beautiful, also invasive and really hard to get rid of once it gets established. But that is my hardy kiwi that I've had for a good long while, and so I was hoping I would get fruit off of it, but it was on this fence that the tree came through, and so obviously got totally mangled, and so had to be cut back. We'll see what we get from it. So a fig tree that definitely had some damage. I had planted celery and some carrots. I don't see any evidence of my carrots before the storm, but I do see evidence that the celery is still kicking in there. It looks like maybe a little cabbage, which I don't believe I planted the cabbage, but you know, hey, maybe I did, maybe I forgot. These guys back here haven't fared as well as the one up front. Lavender. There's another one. This is an onion of some sort. I don't know if it's a bunching or bulbing. Let's see here. Rosemary looks a little peaky, but hopefully she'll come back. I do have things like this popping up. That is muscari, I believe. So I'll probably just let that be. Don't mind the muscari at all. I have a good number of things that were, let's call them heritage things that have popped up. I have tulips and daffodils and muscari that were obviously planted by somebody else. So there's the fig from the other end. The whole back half of the tree got crushed. And then my poor little apple tree. And this would have been its 5th year in the ground, so I was really hoping to get apples from it this year, and we may still. But I imagine, you know, it had a little bit of damage, and then volunteers dropped a tree on it, a big limb from a big tree, and broke it right down the middle. So I did tape it up with painter's tape, which is I think the wrong thing, and now it very obviously has some kind of disease. Probably a fungus because I did it wrong. I should have gotten some regular like garden tape to use when I realized it wasn't working. But you know, sometimes you don't know unless you try. So that's kind of what I was just hoping that my improvisation would work out, and then it didn't. So I'll probably have to replace that tree at some point, but I figure it'll take a good long while, and you never know, it might recover. I did spray it down with copper yesterday after I unwrapped it. There's another lavender that looks a little, it's kicking. She's not super happy. Those are crocus that bloom in the fall, and they bloomed a little bit early this year, so I wasn't looking for them. And then I see the Brussels sprout that's still in the ground. All of that, I have to reattach the trellis up there still. But this has been pretty much, I mean, obviously there's been lots of life happening, so the garden hasn't been the focus, and we didn't even have full water restored to our house because it's an old house. I shouldn't say it that way. We had water, but we couldn't use it because it was an old house until we had it tested to make sure there was no lead in it, which was another consequence of the storm. We learned a lot about how our water system works in the intervening couple of months, but yeah, it's all back now. So anyways, that made life quite hectic. That's all muscari there. And so now and it's also been bitterly cold. So I didn't have time to come out here and poke around and deal with the piles. So it's really only recently got to be a concerted effort. Sage, more onion, blueberry, and yeah, and it's exhausting. There's a raspberry in here somewhere. I'm hoping it will come back. Things got knocked off the fence. You can see all the chicken wire got pulled off. I have hollyhock there. I did get another set for the irrigation system, so I'm planning on moving it and setting up more because I only really had it in the main garden bed. So I had to water all these other spaces where I have blackberries that will be coming up soon. And that is a service berry that I need to get a friend for. It had a friend over there that was doing well and then it died. And that is a pawpaw, and I'm not sure if it's coming back. We'll see. Yeah. I decided to make that just an asparagus bed. Up here's some heritage daffodils, inherited daffodils. But yeah, so that's just gonna be asparagus, but I also put in a couple of pine berry plants. So those will come up when they're ready. that I think is actually garlic from one time when I planted garlic and didn't pull them all up. I think they've been reproducing as just little tiny guys. So yeah, roses, onions, and another rose. And I don't normally do this way around, but since my neighbor was out there. And then we'll come back to this area. A little goth girl garden. You can see I never got to, like usually I like to pull up the leaves and mulch them down, but that didn't happen. So, you know, probably good for months. I know you're supposed to leave the leaves. Hellebore seems to be really late since this is February, but happy to see it doing its thing. There's some heuchera under there. These are elderberries grown from cuttings. That's probably the first thing I've ever propagated that way successfully. Hellebore, looks a little sad. Heuchera, mostly heuchera is buried in this here. See the remains of some hostas. And more heucheras. And I think the color will change on some of these guys where they look a little more peachy. So more darker ones. They should be alternating in here, but I'm looking like I'm seeing just the peachy ones. I don't know if I've had some loss. Over the winter we didn't get sub-zero, but we got close to it. I think we got down to like 3 one day. And it stayed very cold for a longer amount of time. Oh, another elderberry. Can you focus? No? Okay. Well, there's buds on it. It's not dead. There's Juca, my original black lace elderberry, and some black wondergrass and more Juca. So yeah, a lot of things were left in the state of nature this year. In the front I did do chop and drop, which I think I started to say, for the benefit of the seed heads to try and spread more things. And I've partly done that because we technically don't own that corner, and got into a dispute with the city after a garbage truck gouged out our front wall right after we had it repaired, which is also why the wall is a mess. So eventually we'll have to dig it out. But lucky that we didn't have a legal battle with the city. But that was a couple of years ago. So we turned it basically into wildflowers. Couldn't plant any trees or bushes, things that I would be sad if they came up. But it's been a lot of work to get it the way it is, so I don't know if that worked out in time versus money calculations.